Please take your seats quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim and Chris. On today's Tour Catch-Up, brought to you by the UTS Grand Final.
Imperious Djokovic seals 7th Tour Finals crown.
Salisbury and Ram go back-to-back in Turin.
And the Davis Cup Finals get underway in Malaga.
Kim, today is the 20th of November and we are here to catch up on the week in tennis at Tennis Weekly HQ. It's our final tour catch-up of the season. We are very, very close to the end of the tennis season, the never-ending tennis season. Novak Djokovic is your champion in Turin, his 7th ATP Tour Finals championship. He goes out on his own in front. He was equal with Roger Federer. He's now on his own. We've got Joe Salisbury as well with his partner Rajeev Ram defending their doubles title in Turin, and the Davis Cup is underway in Malaga from tomorrow, which is also very exciting, Kim, because we're going to be going there in a few days to cheer on GB against a certain Mr. Djokovic and the Serbia team. So there is plenty to look forward to.
There is, and we do have to acknowledge, sadly, that Chris is not joining us today because he's currently unwell, tucked up in bed with a bit of flu. So sorry, Chris, that you're not with us. We hope that when we release this pod that you'll be tuning in immediately and that the sound of our voices will provide some comfort to you at this time. But yeah, big shout out. We wish you well, speedy recovery.
Yes, Chris, we wish you all well. I'm sure all of our listeners wish you well as well. I'm not going to lie, Kim. I'm just envisaging Chris at the moment just in bed looking at some ITF 60k events on a live stream somewhere in the world. There must be something going on.
I would be sad and disappointed if he wasn't doing that. So I feel like tennis is a tonic for Chris. You know, he lives and breathes it, especially WTA. So I hope Chris is, still keeping up with everything that's going on in the tennis world. I'm sure he is.
Well, get well soon, Chris. And listeners, another thing that is going on, we are also very much looking forward to being at the UTS Grand Final in London at the Excel Arena in mid-December. We hope to see you there. We have been running a competition over the last week or so on our social media channels. Thank you everyone who has responded and has entered already. And just a reminder to anyone who hasn't played that the competition is still going on. You can still win tickets to be with us at the UTS Grand Finals in London. So just go on to our social media pages on Twitter and Instagram. You will see the competition post there to get involved. So you've still got your time. Make sure you do it, and you could see us potentially at the Grand Finals at the Excel Arena for UTS.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that because it's just before Christmas and it's like the perfect dose of tennis sort of between, in the off season. So I can't wait for that. So listeners, definitely check that out and, enter into the competition for your chance to win. And Joel will be talking about the tennis in Turin very, very shortly. But first of all, there's been some tennis played in a slightly different location in the past week, and that's underwater. Is that right?
Yes. So at the moment we're getting into holiday season for a lot of players. I mean, the WTA season is over, so I'm always curious to see what tennis players get up to in their spare time. I'd like to think, the season's gone on so long, maybe they're putting their racket down and putting their feet up. Is that the case for Martina Trevisan? No. I saw on her social media this week that she has been playing tennis underwater. What is that about? She's taken a racket and some tennis balls, and there's some photos of her on her Instagram account of almost doing kind of like some forehands, some backhands. It almost looks like a tennis lesson going on underwater. I'm not quite sure what to make of it.
It's like a very extreme form of aqua aerobics, but
extreme tennis
underground.
Is this the next iteration? We've had pickleball, we've had paddle. Is underwater tennis? Is that going to be the next thing?
Will UTS become underwater tennis showdown?
Yes.
Shall I phone Patrick up and give him a new idea? Yeah, I thought that was a very novel sort of thing to do. She's out in the Maldives, very much enjoying herself. Photos look really cool.
And also, actually, it just came to my head, this would be specific to Martina Trevisan. Do you think her grunting would you be able to hear that underwater? Is it like sonar? Will the dolphins be able to hear it at that frequency?
Well, that is a very interesting take on it, Joel. I don't know if the podcast has ever gone in that direction before. Like, we'll have to get in touch with like a marine biologist or something, or a dolphin enthusiast. But yeah, I'm quite curious. But I mean, we've also, in the past weeks, been seeing an ex-tennis player on a different sort of surface, not water, but a dance floor, doing really well. And that's my highlight of the week, is Annabelle Croft is still in Strictly Come Dancing in the UK, and she's doing really, really well. Anyone who watches the show regularly, like myself, will know that she's done some really fantastic dances, really like emotional kind of energy, with her circumstances. And it's such a pleasure and a joy to watch her. And I think she's just doing so well. And I kind of want to start a little campaign to get her to win Strictly.
Ooh, how confident are you? Could she get to the finals, do you think?
I think she's like won the hearts of the general public. So I think she could definitely like get to the final. But I just, I just hope that she does even better than she's done, because she's done so well. And that's been my highlight, watching her dance, especially in Blackpool. It was so nice. And I just think, we're seeing a different side to her from what we maybe have seen, when she's just, punditing and commentating. So big shout out to her.
I was going to say, because, and we're going to be talking about this in our second half, about the fact that Amazon Prime tennis coverage is coming to an end. Maybe that's an advantage to her. She'll be able to actually get even more practice in on the dance floor. And who knows, maybe some of the Amazon Prime team, now that they can put their feet up, they can go and support Annabelle. I want to see Mark Petchey front row in BBC television studio, wherever it is, supporting Annabelle. Well,
maybe he'll be signed up for Strictly next year. Annabelle's blazed the trail for everyone else. But yeah, no, it's been fantastic to watch, and we'll be getting on to the Amazon Prime news later on. Let's go and look at what's happened in Turin, though, because we had the climax of the event yesterday, and surprise, Novak Djokovic has won the event. He beat Jannik Sinner 6-3, 6-3, straight sets in the final on Sunday, which was, very much a different situation to when they played earlier in the week where Sinner got the win. He is now, as you said earlier, Joel, he's now a 7-time champion at this event. So he's out on his own. He has the most ATP Finals trophies since 1970. Yet another record that he has achieved over everyone else. But yeah, the final, quite straightforward, really. I was expecting it to be closer given their recent match. But what do you think made the difference? Like, what did Djokovic do differently in the final versus when they played earlier in the week?
I think with this final, Djokovic has been here plenty of times before. You've just said it. The fact that he's now a 7-time champion here. He's got those experiences already under his belt. And, Jannik Sinner, for all the great tennis he has been playing recently and defeating consecutively top 10 opponents, seemingly every tournament he's been going to over the last few months. He'd not been in this situation before. And I think Novak Djokovic really, really did exploit that. And he was at the peak of his powers. I mean, to think, given his age, I'm almost want to say, Kim, that he's playing some of the best tennis I think we've ever seen from him. And I think he has raised his level from the group stage, and Jannik Sinner was not able to cope with it. And even though it seems like quite a fairly straightforward scoreline, Jannik Sinner just was not getting anywhere close to Novak Djokovic on serve. The speed as well from his shots from the back of the court from Djokovic, Sinner was having a hard time dealing with. And I think it was maybe a little bit disappointing for the crowd, given they were all rooting for Jannik Sinner. But you just know when you put Novak Djokovic in that sort of environment, with Jannik Sinner, the home crowd fully against him, chanting against him, hoping he loses, that's where he really comes to the fore.
Yeah, and I mean, Djokovic, like you said, he's been here many, many times. And he did say, you know, he had to step it up and change his tactics to play differently from the group stage. But you just, you know, once he gets into the knockout stage, you know, he dismissed Alcaraz, 6-3, 6-2 in the semis. Basically did the same with Jannik Sinner. It's just, you know, another level yet again from Novak Djokovic. And, you know, he's arguably had the best season of his career at, you know, age 36 in 2023. It's just, I don't know, where does he go from here? Like, I mean, it's hard to get any better, really. I mean, do you think, you know, looking back on this season, he'll obviously be delighted, and I suppose it's scary going into next year, because for a few years he was limited in events that he could play because of, you know, vaccination status and the hoo-ha in Australia and what have you, but he doesn't have those limitations anymore. So should we all be kind of quaking in our boots that next year is just going to be more of the same? I mean, think how he's reacted since Wimbledon. He's only lost one match, and that was a round robin match.
I think what he's shown is that all the talk of the Carlos Alcaraz era is upon us was very premature. And I think, again, seeing things like that would have motivated him. And I just can't see it not being more of the same next season. He was so close this season to winning all 4 Grand Slams, bar an absolutely epic match against, you know, Alcaraz in the Wimbledon finals. So I still think like there's maybe some unfinished business there. But from tournament to tournament, you just can't look past him, given he seems to be in peak health, peak condition. He's got all the experience that he's needed. And although I would agree, you know, he is playing some of the best tennis, you know, we've ever seen, I think, in his career. I also think there's a little bit of, you know, we just don't have the same level of quality around him to think, you know, he was at a time where it's him, Federer, Nadal, Murray, people like David Ferrer, who are very good, Marin Cilic, Kei Nishikori, very, very good tennis players. And I do think arguably maybe there's a part of this season where it's been like, it's dropped off a little bit from the chasing pack, and Djokovic has just stayed as a constant at the top, and as a result he's just going to sweep it up, he's just going to mop it up, and it's become maybe even a little bit easier for him compared to some of the other phases of his career that he's been through.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, you know, it's not just playing, you know, statement tennis and, you know, getting those big wins. It's can you do that consistently? And, you know, we've seen Alcaraz hasn't been able to after Wimbledon. Jannik Sinner, he's had a really solid end to the season. You know, he's got a plethora of top 10 wins, had this kind of ridiculous run of form at the end, but, you know, hasn't managed to do it when it really matters, you know, in the championship match in Turin. And we didn't see this level from him earlier in the year. So it's almost like, yeah, the chasing pack, they have their ebbs and flows. Like one of them's perhaps more dominant at another time of the year to another, but Djokovic is the constant running throughout. It's
a little bit like, I mean, you know, there may be parallels when all is said and done about how Roger Federer started his career when he was just mopping up, you know, in that transition period where Leighton Hewitt was world number 1, Roger Federer was coming onto the scene, and it, you know, a lot of people would have said tennis just got boring because Roger Federer was winning everything. And if it does continue the same, I do wonder if people will make those parallels and see, actually, for Novak Djokovic, he started in a really tough era, but actually his career maybe is ending at a time where he, like Roger Federer started, where he can almost mop everything up.
Yeah, and I mean, good for him, because you can't control what other people bring to the tennis court, can you? And he's doing what he can do. So.
No, and I'm not saying like this means his numbers are inflated or whatever. It's still a very competitive, field, and I think we've seen that with the caliber of matches, across the week. We've had some fantastic events and rubbers, I think, across the group stage and the knockout as well. And I think it's all going to push everyone on, but it just seems that Novak Djokovic, the only way he can be defeated is by himself at the moment.
I think you're right there. And I'm going to play devil's advocate. Jannik Sinner, he potentially could have had an opportunity during the course of the week to knock Djokovic out. So Sinner played Rune in his final round robin. If Sinner had lost that match, it would have knocked Djokovic out of the competition. Obviously, Sinner won that match. It went to 3 sets. He did get the win. But do you think that scenario crossed his mind? Obviously, it'd be very unsporting to deliberately lose a tennis match. But, in theory, he could have perhaps knocked Djokovic out to then not have had to have faced him come the, semis/final. Do you think that ever crossed his mind, Joel, or am I just being really naughty by even suggesting that?
I think, you look at Jannik Sinner and the life he leads on the tour, on court and off court, and how he projects himself in interviews. I don't think that probably crossed his mind. He wants to go out and give his fans the best tennis match possible, not go out on court and tank so that I can give myself a better opportunity to win the whole thing. So I don't think it crossed his mind. Having said that, if I was in his shoes, I probably wouldn't be as noble, and I probably would have thought, hang on, there's an opportunity here for me to win a Tour Finals crown. It's easier with Djokovic out of the draw. It's in my hands at the moment. I could do something about that. It's a really tough. I think it's probably a really tough spot to be in, and I don't know. It probably would have crossed my mind, but there would have been a part of me that would have thought, well, hang on, with Djokovic out, does this feel like I've actually won it if I haven't actually defeated him maybe in the final? I know I've defeated him in the group stage, but if I haven't met the final boss in the final, is it a bit soulless? I don't know.
Yeah, I think the flip side of it is that, if you did end up doing that, you won the title, you'd be like, oh, but I didn't get the chance to beat and play Djokovic.
I don't feel like the Italian crowd, though, would really care about that aspect.
No. And also, it's sod's law. You'd knock Djokovic out and then lose to whoever you ended up playing in the semis anyway. So,
what would you do? What would you have done?
I would have thought about it, but then my conscience would have stopped me, and I would have just, been more honourable, I think, just because I would have been, I guess, superstitious, thinking if I do this, then some bad karma is going to present itself. What goes around comes around. So I think Sinner made the right choice. But anyway, on the subject of Sinner, obviously he's had a fantastic end to the season. Carlos Alcaraz is making bold predictions for him next year. He has said that he thinks that Jannik Sinner is going to reach the world #1 ranking in 2024. Now, I can understand someone making that statement, generally about Sinner. I do see him as being a future world #1, but 2024, is it going to happen that soon, Joel?
I'm not sure. I don't, unless something happens to Novak Djokovic that puts him off the tour for a while, like an injury. I just can't see that happening anytime soon, regardless of how well Jannik Sinner plays. I think he can solidify himself certainly in the top 3, and I think we're certainly seeing, I think, Alcaraz, Sinner, Medvedev separate themselves even more so, with this Tour Finals, I feel, and the last few months. I feel like those 3 are very much in a group of their own behind Djokovic, and to me, I think Sinner wants to be the leader of that pack. And once he's leader of that pack, then I think he can go and maybe have a crack at Novak Djokovic in that world #1 ranking. But the fact that Djokovic is fit and healthy, and there are no restrictions on him going into next season, and where he wants to go in the world to play tennis, the world is going to be his oyster again in 2024. And I think that's just going to make it even more difficult for someone like a Jannik Sinner to get to that #1 ranking in the next 12 months or so.
Yeah, maybe Alcaraz was trying to
take the pressure off himself.
That's
what I thought.
Yeah, because if it's not Djokovic at #1, you think it's going to be Alcaraz next year. So perhaps it was a bit of tactical quotation there. When just talking about Turin generally, we've had an announcement, I think, according to Sky Sports Italy, that the ATP Finals have extended their contract with Turin as the host until 2027. So potentially we have another 4 renditions of this event. What do you make of that, Joel?
These are rumours.
Rumours, yeah, sorry, it's not confirmed.
This is what's going, not
rumours.
Confirmed, but this is the...
Do you want it to be true, Joel?
The chatter.
Are you happy about this?
I'm not going to lie, I think it's been a fantastic event. It has been night and day in terms of how this has been run, how the talent have been showcased on the ATP Tour versus the WTA Tour. And I think there is something to be said of just having a blueprint and just sticking with it, and having somewhere that has a multi-year agreement We don't have that on the WTA Tour, and it just feels like a complete mess. We can't have any marketing activity that's kind of like a road to Turin across the season. And it just feels a little bit like aimless and like, where are we heading? So I think it makes sense. The Italian crowd are great. I know they upset some people in terms of how boisterous they are, I think, with some of the matches that we've seen. But yeah, it's just been a great event. And I think it's carried on the legacy that London and the O2, left it in good hands, and it's just carried it on, and it's been really fantastically put on. And I would arguably put this year as probably the best year I think it's actually had in terms of the tennis it has showcased. The final they have got with Jannik Sinner, home crowd against the ultimate boss Novak Djokovic. Yeah, I think it went off really without a hitch, apart from Spider Cam, I think, getting in the way a few times during serve. So if that's what they're worried about, I think we're in safe hands.
Yeah, and hopefully one player will who didn't play an awful lot this time round, but may well play more next year, is Stefanos Tsitsipas. He had a bit of a bizarre incident. He retired 3 games in against Holger Rune with an injury, but he had some unfavourable words said against him by Thierry Guibert.
Yeah, the Lacoste CEO waded in on social. I didn't even know he was on social media, but he came in and said, "Hats off to Jannik Sinner for his win tonight. Despite the unfair behaviour of Tsitsipas, he showed to everyone why he is a future champ and an authentic guy." Yeah, very strange. I thought, I completely understand all the positivity saying around Jannik Sinner, but unfair behaviour of Tsitsipas, I thought that was a little bit unfair. He wanted to come onto the court. Injuries are part of tennis. He wanted to give it a go. He's earned the right to be there. He's earned the right to do what he wants in my book. So if he wants to go on and see how it goes, then that's totally up to him. And that's what he did. If he can't continue, fair enough. But in my book, he's earned the right to be there so he can do what he wants.
Yes, well said, Joel. And I'm not too sure. Maybe there's a bit of history between the two of them that prompted that. But on more pleasant notes...
Tsitsipas turned down a Lacoste contract, did he? A year ago or something? I don't know.
Who knows? Maybe they weren't fashionable enough for him. He likes his style, his poncho and all of that. But on more pleasant news, just before we kind of take a break, we had the doubles event in Turin, and Joe Salisbury of Great Britain has defended his title that he won last year with Rajeev Ram. They clinched their second season-ending title, beating Granollers and Zeballos in straight sets in the final. So fantastic for Joe. They've not only defended their US Open title this year, but they've also defended the ATP Finals title, which are two of the biggest events of the season. And they just seem to kind of improve throughout the week, and winning that final straight sets comfortably, very solid performance. So yeah, really fantastic. Obviously Joe will be joining Team GB in Malaga this week as well. So
yeah, I mean, Serbia have got their not so secret weapon in Novak Djokovic, and I feel like Team GB have got potentially an ace in the pack with Joe Salisbury and the form he has showed. I just hope that it gets to the doubles rubber, because I think that's going to be like the first goal, I think, when it comes to that Davis Cup tie, because once we get into the doubles, I think that's arguably where we have got the biggest advantage. And it's great to see the Brits doing well, and Salisbury and Ram, I mean, back-to-back titles in Turin. Yes, they may have had a shaky start to the season, but they've ended it with aplomb. And you hear about all these new doubles combinations, players quitting from their partners, getting new partners in. But with Salisbury and Ram, they've just been this rock. They've just been this presence, I feel, over the last few seasons. And I think it shows that if you just kind of stick at it with someone, I think there's a lot to be said for that. And they've played some great tennis. They've won some Grand Slam titles together. They've gone back to back at the ATP Finals, and it's again sets them up really well for next season. And hopefully they can capture a few more men's doubles Grand Slam titles crowns.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed for Joe and Rajeev. On that note, we are going to be taking a very quick break, but do join us in the second half where we'll be discussing Amazon Prime's legacy to tennis coverage in the UK, the Davis Cup finals in Malaga, and we'll also be having our very final par for the courts quiz for the season. So do not go anywhere.
This podcast is brought to you in partnership with UTS.
And Tennis Weekly is proud to be the official podcast of the UTS Grand Final in London.
UTS is the world's newest, most exciting, innovative tennis league, playing an entirely reinvented game format that does away with traditional tennis rules.
And the UTS Grand Final is coming to London's XL Arena from the 15th to the 17th of December.
The Grand Final features the players who have won the UTS events from around the globe, guaranteeing the best of the best will be competing for the title in London.
Already confirmed are top players such as Andrey Rublev,
Gael, the Monfils,
Casper, the Iceman Ruud,
with more players to be announced, including a local wildcard.
So if you are looking for the ultimate day out in London in the run-up to Christmas, then secure your tickets to the UTS Grand Final now.
Session passes start from £31 and day passes from just £51 for a guaranteed 6 matches.
Go to www.uts.live for more information or use the link in the description to purchase your tickets now.
We look forward to seeing you there.
Welcome back to the Tennis Weekly podcast, brought to you by the UTS Grand Final. And now we're going to move on to our last par for the courts.
A solo
for the
edition.
Season.
Par for the
Solo
courts.
edition. It's just me. I don't have Chris to contend with. So I might be in with the chance.
Well, I was going to say, are you actually a little bit relieved by that you don't have to go up against the tennis knowledge of Chris?
I mean, I might still not make par, so perhaps not. And I'd obviously rather Chris was well and, with us. But yeah, what have you got for me, Joel, and for our listeners?
Right. So I've got a par for the courts solo edition for you. So what that means for you and our listeners is I'm going to give you a topic as usual, and I am going to set the par score for you. Okay?
Okay. Excellent.
So the topic I have got for you is, because it's the end of season, we've had the end of season finals in Cancun and Turin. I would like, this is WTA themed, I would like you to tell me as many year-end number 1 ranked WTA players as possible. And there are, I'm just going to count this because this is the part where it goes wrong for me and I get the number wrong, but there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 players. So there are 15 individuals who have in the past been the WTA year-end number 1 ranked player.
Is this ever or since
Ever.
a certain... Oh, wow. I thought there'd be more than that.
Okay, since the WTA rankings came in...
Began, okay.
Yeah, like in the I'm going to assume like the 1970s. I haven't got that piece of information to hand.
We won't hold you to that, Joel. Billie Jean King's like, tut. Okay, right. So what's my part? What am I aiming for to get?
So, as I say, there were 15 in total, and I'm going to go for... I think there's quite a few names here that are quite gettable. So I'm going to go double digits. I'm going to go 10.
Oh, okay. Right, let's do this. I think I might be able to get fairly close. Okay, so, right. Are you ready? Serena Williams.
Correct, yes. 5-time year-end number 1 in her career.
Iga Swiatek.
Correct. She's achieved that twice.
Just trying to think who's actually year-end versus just number 1. Ash Barty. Chris Evert.
Correct, yes, on the list. That's 4.
Navratilova.
Very good. Yes, she's done it 7 times, so that's 5 correct answers. You're halfway there.
Steffi Graf.
correct. Yes, she is top of the list 8 times, so that's 6 correct answers. You're steamrolling, Kim.
Oh, now I'm starting to falter though. I'm starting to debate in my head. Martina Hingis.
Martina Hingis is a correct answer. Yes, she is on the list. So that's 7.
Maria Sharapova.
Maria Sharapova. That's an incorrect answer,
Oh,
Kim.
no.
It was going so well. It was going so well.
She has been number 1, right? Just not year end, I guess. Oh,
yes,
damn.
she has been world number 1. But yeah, she's not been a year end number 1. So I'm afraid it stops at 7. Were there any
there were
other?
so many other people I should have said.
Were there any other names in the tank?
I should have said Justine Henin, shouldn't I?
Yes, she's on the list. Yeah, that would have been. Yeah.
Sellers?
Very good. Yes,
so
Monica
why am I saying all these
Seles.
people now? Davenport?
Oh, Kim, that's 3. That would have taken you to 10. Oh,
what about
the
Venus
bittersweet.
Williams?
Well, interestingly, Venus Williams not on the list. I thought that was quite surprising, but yeah, Venus Williams not on there. Any others?
Well, I suppose Billie Jean King.
Well, no, because Billie.
Oh,
no, because
she
it was
said
before. Yes.
Before, yeah. Okay, fair. How about something like, I don't know, Conchita Martinez or Sanchez Vicario? Were they number 1?
No.
Year end? Azarenka?
Yep, you could have had Azarenka. Yes.
Safina?
Not Safina. No. Interestingly, no Russians on the list actually, but. These are your WTA year-end number 1 ranked players you could have had. I'm going to start at the top with Steffi Graf, who did it 8 times. Martina Navratilova, 7 times. You had Chris Evert and Serena Williams, who both did it on 5 occasions. Lindsay Davenport on 4 occasions. And then you had Monica Seles, Martina Hingis, Justine Henin, and Ash Barty on 3 occasions. 2 players you didn't give me who did it on 2 occasions. Caroline Wozniacki, Simona Halep, and Iga Swiatek. And then 2 other players, along with Victoria Azarenka, have also been the year-end world number 1 on 1 occasion. And they are...
Osaka.
Jelena Jankovic. And, coming back to the tour next year, I believe... Angelique Kerber is on the list. So those are your 15. Graf, Navratilova, Evert, Williams, Serena Williams, Davenport, Seles, Hingis, Henin, Barty, Wozniacki, Halep, Swiatek, Jankovic, Azarenka, and Angelique Kerber.
In hindsight, I should have got a lot more. I bet listeners are screaming at me. I bet Chris is in his bed screaming at me. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I've let the side down.
Maria Sharapova.
Okay.
I mean, it sounds like it should be correct, right?
I'm surprised Osaka wasn't year-end number 1 either.
Well, there you go.
But
there you go.
There we go. Okie doke. Well, thanks very much, Joel. Listeners, let us know how you got on with this final half of the courts for 2023. We'll look forward to bringing more of those in the new year. We also are diving into our mailbag for the last time this season. Andrea on Twitter has reached out. Hello, Andrea. Thanks for contacting us. Andrea has said, "Hey guys, love the pod and your fashion analysis of the ATP and WTA Final 8 group photos."
I'm taking full credit for that.
I mean, Andrea, you may want to listen to our back catalogue where we did fashion faves and faux pas. That was many years ago, but still probably a bit of a laugh if you listen to it. But Andrea is asking, what would we wear if we had made it to Turin or Cancun? Like, what would you have worn if you had got there yourself?
Ooh.
So, Joel, any ideas?
I mean, the Tennis Weekly podcaster in me, of course, is going to say like a custom merch outfit with just full Tennis Weekly branding on absolutely everything. I'm wearing the hat. I'm wearing a blazer. I've got the Tennis Weekly badge on the breast. Tennis Weekly bow tie. everything just kind of layered in Tennis Weekly, I think would be like my marketeer's answer. But if I was just going for more like casual answer, I'd go for a little retro look. I think I'm always a bit of I grew up in the mid-noughties, and I'd go back to a mid-noughties classic look of jeans and a short sleeve t-shirt over a long sleeve t-shirt. I'll go back to my roots. That's I know it's probably a bit too casual for tour finals, but I'm going to keep it as low-key as possible.
You'd be doing the whole Garuna style,
yes,
like
exactly.
low-key.
Maybe a chain on my jeans, or maybe that'd be a bit far with some Vans shoes.
Oh gosh, really going back to the
I
mid-noughties.
thought about this too much. Yes,
that's a very detailed answer. Andrea will be thrilled.
She's probably thinking my fashion analysis has gone right out the window now, given my answer there.
She's probably thinking, where is Chris? He wears like the dapper suits. But yeah, I mean, I think I would go a bit more exuberant than you, Joel.
Okay.
And I'm thinking either sequins or flamenco. Maybe, something glittery, something you'd wear on Strictly or at Eurovision.
Well, I was going to say, it sounds like you're raiding the Strictly wardrobe.
The wardrobe. I better get Annabelle to, take some of the dresses back for me. But yeah, maybe like a sequined jumpsuit. But I think, if you're somewhere out in Spain, for the event, or, I know they weren't in Spain this year, but maybe a nod to the local area. So something, maybe a sequined sombrero for Cancun, something to like pay homage to where you are geographically. But yeah, I think it's quite fun. I doubt we'll ever be making this lineup. So, as media in the media centre, you don't have to wear anything exciting, do you? So it's on the other side of the camera. But yeah, thank you, Andrea, for your question. Listeners, keep them coming. Do send them to us over the next few weeks or so, and we will look forward to featuring them in the new year when we kickstart the mailbag again. And this brings us now, Joel, on to a couple of talking points before we finish for today's episode. We alluded to this earlier, and that is, I guess, and this is more for UK listeners, Amazon Prime tennis coverage in the UK is coming to an end. The ATP Finals has finished, which was their final event in the UK. They've been broadcasting for 5 years, giving everyone with a Prime subscription, access to free tennis. And are you going to miss it, Joel? Are you going to have to search elsewhere now to watch your tennis? How do you feel about them bowing out?
I've been dreading this moment, I think, ever since it's been announced. It's been great, I think, over the years as part of like a subscription with Amazon. I know to begin with, it was a little bit tricky for people who maybe aren't used to streaming or relying on a Wi-Fi connection to watch tennis. But from my point of view, it's been great, and I think they've really evolved the coverage, the presentation of it as well, the pundits and the broadcasters that they get in to do the analysis, I think has been top draw. I think it's a very well-oiled machine. We see people like Tim Henman and Greg Rosetsky, Mark Petchey. They just deliver really, really good insight that I think is what you want when you're following the tennis tour all year round, and you've got a product that is all year round. You want to give it that level of care and attention, and I think they've delivered on that. And I am a little bit sad. I think that the chat is that it's going to be going over to Sky. They had the US Open coverage earlier this year, and I think they've got a lot to live up to.
Yeah, it's been great having it on Amazon Prime, because most of us, well, I don't want to generalize, but a large part of the population do have Amazon Prime, so it's just nice that it's already included. So there is going to be extra costs involved for tennis fans who really want to follow the coverage.
It's going to be more fragmented as well. Like
advert breaks. That's it's been nice not having those, and the team I've enjoyed.
And the choice as well, because with the Grand Slam coverage, particularly from Prime, the number of courts that they've able to televise and give us has been, I feel like it's been, like, I don't want to say the word unprecedented, but it's been on a level that I don't think we were used to as tennis fans before they came in. And I just hope there are learnings there that do get taken on board, I think, from Prime to Sky in terms of how it can be as seamless as possible. I think the big worry for everyone, including myself, is the cost involved, because we know that going from this kind of subscription model to Sky Sports, the price is going to jump up. It doesn't feel like it's going to be as easily accessible. And I just worry, what that means in terms of levels of interest in tennis in the UK. Will people get as excited about things that happen because they're going to be behind a paywall now?
Yeah, things that happen outside of Wimbledon in the UK, getting new audiences in. Yeah, I think that's going to be more of a barrier because, the paywall is quite high when it comes to Sky as well. So, well, thanks Amazon Prime. Who knows? Maybe they'll pick it up again in the future. But it's been great that they've shown it in the last 5 years, and we'll have to see how the next phase of tennis viewing in the UK goes. But yeah, big thanks to Amazon Prime, I suppose, from all us here at Tennis Weekly, tennis fans across the UK.
Our podcast has depended on you.
I know, literally. But let's talk about what's happening this week, because we have the Davis Cup finals kicking off in Malaga tomorrow. The first tie is between Canada and Finland. So we've got 4 days worth of initial ties, semi-finals on Friday. 3 days of initial ties. Then Friday and Saturday semi-finals, Sunday the final. Great Britain team news. Andy Murray is out. I'm sorry, Joel. I know you were very looking forward to seeing him there. He's out with a shoulder injury, and Liam Brody has come in. So we're due to be there in time for Team GB against Serbia on Thursday, and we're very much looking forward to that, aren't we?
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting tie. Gutted that Andy Murray won't be there. Dan Evans not going to be there either. I think this sort of maybe plays into Serbia's hands. I think they know what they're going to be getting. They know that Jack Draper is going to be stepping out as the number 2 player. They know Cam Norrie is going to be stepping out as the number 1 player, and they know that it's going to be Salisbury Skupski in the doubles. So I just hope from GB's perspective that they can get it to the doubles, because I think if that's the case, then I would say that maybe we would go in as slight favourites, because I know no matter how good Novak Djokovic is on a singles court, and I would expect him obviously to play in that tie, if it does go to the doubles and he gets put in there with someone like a Kekmanovic, I think having double specialists like Salisbury and Skupski together, I personally still would back them, but they need to get to that point first. And I think to do that, they need Jack Draper to start with a win, because it's going to be very difficult, I think, when it comes to what everyone I think is assuming is going to be Novak Djokovic versus Cam Norrie in that second rubber.
Yeah, and I mean, Salisbury and Skupski in the doubles, they don't normally play together, do they? And Salisbury doesn't have the best of records in Davis Cup ties. So I think, the odds are against GB, but it's not impossible.
It's a skeleton team, isn't it?
Djokovic.
It's
not
a skeleton team now, is it? Because the fact we don't have Evans, the fact we don't have Murray, we are relying on this team that looked like it had a plethora of options, just even a few weeks ago, to now to a point of like, it's either this or we go home.
Yeah. I mean, let's look at the rest of the field, because we've got Canada versus Finland, Czechia versus Australia, Netherlands versus Italy, and then Great Britain versus Serbia. Where's your winner coming from, Joel? Who are you going for, looking at that kind of lineup?
Oh, that is tough. I mean, Canada were the surprise packages, I think, for me in the in the qualifying for the final 8 in terms of how they performed. So I think, if they could carry on that momentum, I think they'll be a force to be reckoned with. I think it's hard to look past to be honest, it's hard to look past Serbia or Italy in my book. I think that to me is the stronger half. And I sort of expect the winner to come from Netherlands, Italy, GB, Serbia. And yeah, maybe Italy, and maybe, who knows, we'll get a rematch of a Sinner versus Djokovic in Davis Cup.
Yeah, it's hard for me to disagree with you, to be honest, Joel. They're the sort of 2 standouts for me as well. But you never know. Perhaps someone else can spring a surprise, but it is hard to think beyond.
What is the level of... So what is our... We're going there to support GB. What are realistic expectations?
for GB. I suppose if we can get a rubber, that would be obviously like I want to say decent enough, but I hope we don't just, lose both the singles. I hope we get to the doubles, because that would at least give us some chance that we felt like we were in the tie. But with this format, the new format of Davis Cup, you just don't get the chance to play your way into it. You've got to be on it.
Yeah.
And no rubber is kind of spare. So it's going to be intense. And I think we've just got to hope that luck might be on our side, and we'll have to cheer extra hard for Team GB and hope that a lot of British fans have made the trip, out there to lend the support.
It's going to be an interesting atmosphere, isn't it? Because the fact that Spain aren't there, what is the atmosphere going to be like? What are the turnouts and the attendances going to be like as well? Because you're relying on I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know. It doesn't feel like it's going to be a fever pitch atmosphere across the whole week, given without the interest basically of Spain.
Yeah, I mean, Joel, we might have to start a Mexican wave to get the crowd energized.
Is it a 2-person Mexican wave of Tennis Weekly? Me and you just going back and forth.
Well, I think that might be a step up from last weekend at the Billie Jean King Cup, because you had a bit of a interesting
that is very true.
Experience there.
That is very true. And it was a story I forgot to bring up last week, and I thought it was funny, so I'm going to tell our listeners. It did hurt my pride a little bit, but I was obviously going there and thinking, oh, maybe someone will recognize me, someone will spot me and come up to me and be like, oh my God, you're Joel from Tennis Weekly Podcast. We love what you do, etc., etc. Well, Kim, I had 2 fans come up to me, and they were walking towards me, and I thought, this is my moment. We can talk about Tennis Weekly. It'll be great. They love our podcast. And they asked me to show them to their seats. And I'm just hoping we don't get that experience in Malaga. It was like a dagger to my heart. It was a dagger to my heart.
Don't dress like a steward or something. What were you wearing last weekend?
I was wearing a shirt.
Well, you obviously gave
it was the
steward
badge.
vibes.
It was the lanyard. I think that they had connected to.
Fair enough.
Oh, okay. He works as a steward. He can show us our seats.
Well, we've got to keep you down to earth, Joel. Don't get your podcast ego too high. So I'm glad they asked that of you. But anyway, we'll see what happens this week in Malaga. We look forward to being there and bringing our listeners the coverage that we can provide and cheering Team GB on and seeing what unfurls over the course of the next week. We won't be there till a couple of days' time, so we're not unfortunately there for the earlier ties. But we also have an event just to mention before we finish for today. The Next Gen Finals, the field has been set. They're taking place in Saudi Arabia in Jeddah, which they'll be taking place there from this year onwards till 2027. They're starting on the 28th of November, so kind of a week tomorrow. We've got quite an interesting lineup. Some players I'm not particularly familiar with, which I guess is the whole point of the event. We've got Arthur Fee, Luca Van Asch, Dominic Stricker, Flavio Coboli, Alex Michelson, Hamad Medjedovic, Luca Nardi, and Abdullah Shelby. I know about 50% of them, Joel, and I feel ignorant for saying I don't know the others, but I'm not too familiar with them.
I am with you, and I've no doubt if Chris was here, he was saying this is Arthur Fee and the rest of the field. I feel at the moment, but having said that, I know Luca Nardi I think has had great success on the Challenger circuit this season. Dominic Stricker as well. He's quite a difficult player. I've seen him at Wimbledon qualifying as well. So yeah, there's some interesting characters there, but you feel like it's maybe not as jam-packed in terms of like next gen talent that I think could reach top 10 in the future as maybe previous editions. But certainly with someone like Arthur Fee, I think he could look at this field and think, actually, this is mine for the taking, really.
Yeah, it's not giving me quite the same vibes as when I think Jannik Sinner played this event. But I think personally it's probably going to be looking at Fee or Stricker for the win. But it's always intriguing to see these players that you don't know much about. So, and that's the whole point of it. So look forward to to seeing that when when it gets to it. Davis Cup first, of course. And that pretty much brings us to a close, Joel. But we do have quite a lot still to come this season, don't we? This is our last tour catch up, but stay tuned, listeners.
Stay tuned, listeners. Yes, this has been our final tour catch up of the season. We just want to say a big thank you to everyone who's listened to our analysis, has taken part in our quizzes, or maybe you've even written in a mailbag question. We just want to give every one of our listeners a big shout out for our tour catch ups. We're not done yet. As Kim has said, as we have said over the last couple of weeks, we are going out to Malaga for Davis Cup. So we're going to be doing a few episodes live from Malaga. We've got the UTS Grand Final in London as well. We're going to be at that. We're going to be putting some content up. We might do an episode as well, just to give the full experience of how we found it. But Kim, most importantly, we also have got the end of season quiz 2023, when we're going to look back on the ATP and WTA seasons, Grand Slam events, team events, you name it. We're going to be doing that, I think, next week at some point. And I've already got my questions ready for you and Chris for my section. So I hope you're studying up.
Well, I hope you're studying up. You've got your questions out of the way, so you can start revising.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah. I'm going to try and make my questions perhaps less hard than I have in previous years. Because, well, I feel like we've had some comments that my level of difficulty is too high. But I look forward to challenging you all and our listeners.
We all love
it's one of my
favourite
episodes of the year.
We all love a good quiz. So listeners, look out for that. And just as a mention as well, we do have our Tennis Weekly crowdfunder for next season coming into the horizon. We'll be releasing that at the start of December. So look out for more information on that in the next couple of weeks. But if you want to support the show and what we do, we don't do this. We don't do this full time. We do all have our own jobs. We take our annual leave to go to events to cover it for our listeners. But it really can't go on without our listeners' support. And the crowdfunder is a great way to kind of get involved with the show. And we'll have some great gifts and prizes as well for anyone who is able and willing to donate. So look out for the Tennis Weekly crowdfunder 2024 coming in a few weeks from the start of December, when it will go live. Right, I'm going to finish there, Kim. I feel like that's all the stuff that we've got to look forward to over the next month or so. But this has been our final tour catch up of the season. I hope you have enjoyed, listeners, our latest episode of the Tennis Weekly podcast, as usual. And remember to subscribe to stay up to date on all the action still to come. We've got Davis Cup, we've got the UTS Grand Final, and we've got a few little bonuses as well up our sleeves. So make sure you're subscribed to make sure you're the first to listen to that.
We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major podcasting platforms out there. And if you do like what you're hearing, then also make sure to leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, as that really helps new listeners find us and know that, we're a pretty good bet for them to listen to. You could also follow us on social media or email the show. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and X. Our handle is @TennisWeeklyPod. You can also purchase Tennis Weekly merch at etsy.com/shop/tennisweeklypodcast. Perhaps some nice Christmas gift ideas on the shop there. You can also email us, tennisweeklypod@gmail.com. And don't forget to check out our website as well, tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we will be back later in the week with our Davis Cup live from Malaga episodes, brought to you by the UTS Grand Final. So I hope you can join us for that. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from Kim.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. We'll see you again soon.